And the brand had started their own university, and it was dedicated to the craft and commerce of hairdressing. And I worked on the commerce side. So essentially what we do is we bring salon owners in from all over the world, and we would teach them in a series of workshops how to build their business. And the formula was awesome. It was dead on. It spoke exactly to the hairdresser. It told them exactly what they needed to do step by step to turn their shop into a retail brand, into a machine. And at the end of these 5-day seminars, owners of salons, veterans who had been in the industry for 30 years or more, were just blown away with how much they didn't know that they didn't know from this workshop. They didn't realize how much they could actually do, how much potential they actually had to grow their salon into a real business. And they walked out of that 5 days charged, motivated, excited, dedicated, and then they went home. And what do you think happened? Nothing. In fact, when we looked at the results, only about 20% of all those people ever made any long-term significant growth in their business. Right? Because change is hard. All of a sudden you go back home and reality hits, and all of a sudden you have to change. And change isn't always easy, is it? Even if it's for the better, it isn't always easy. You know, because we're creatures of habit, and we love to live in a state of equilibrium. And anything that disrupts that equilibrium sends a signal right to our brain to alert us to stop what we're doing. And so what we do is we go right back to doing all the things that we've always done, because that's what we're comfortable with. We already know the results. And that's what happened. There were 20% though that did make a difference. So what was it about these 20% that caused them to create success? And this was big success. I mean, this formula was right on. We helped salons open 2nd and 3rd locations. We brought them up into the $5, $6 million mark. The formula worked. So what was it that made these 20% greater?
Internal drive, initiative.
Drive and initiative. Taking action. I'll tell you, it unfortunately isn't willpower. Because everybody in that room, they wanted to change. Everybody really wanted to do this, right? But it's more than willpower. It had to do with their beliefs about the change, their beliefs that they really could change, and it had to do with the support that they received afterwards. That was key, that support. So the accounts that would go home, and the ones who had an account representative who were calling on them, making sure they were doing right, making sure they were on target, answering any challenges that they had, pushing them towards the end goal, those were the accounts that made it. The accounts that went home and never got a phone call again, never did a thing. And it was really unfortunate because we could have helped so many more people through this program. So I've seen what works, and I've seen what doesn't. I know people with MBAs, I know people with Wall Street and Silicon Valley pedigrees. I've seen them, people with all the information and tools and resources and support in the world, take a business and flush it down the drain because they weren't doing what they needed to do every single day to hit their target. They had nobody to hold them accountable to doing what they were supposed to be doing. I've also seen firsthand my family and hundreds of other salon owners struggle and suffer because they didn't have the right information in the right order. And that's what is so great about OneCoach, is that we offer the right information in the right order. We give you a business formula, a blueprint for growth. And then we do it with you, alongside of you, at your own pace, so that you can reach those goals that you've always wanted to reach. Job. There's 2 components to knowing your ideal client. A lot of you hit both of them. The first component is your demographics. Demographics are the type or the characteristics of the type of person who would need your product or service. So that's where all the male, female, income range, where they live, what they drive, if they have kids, what they do for a living, those are all the demographics. The key factor of knowing your ideal client, remember this is fundamental to attracting more clients. The key to knowing your ideal client is really to understand their psychographics. And these are the factors that determine why somebody would want your product or service. Why would they want your product or service? Needs and wants are very, very different. We all need certain things, don't we? We all need things. but it's the ones that we want that we actually buy. So if you take, haircuts for example, we all need to get our haircut. But some of us want a $15 haircut. We want it fast, we want it quick, we don't want a lot of fluff, we get it cut every 2 weeks, we don't need, a fancy stylist, we just want it in and out, 15 bucks. But there's the other people that want the $150 experience, right? We want the stylist who has, had training and who can walk in and tell us what exactly we want with our hair. We want to have, champagne or cappuccino. We want to sit in a beautiful environment. We want that experience. So see, we all need it to get our hair cut. But why do your customers want what you sell? So now that you know the needs and wants of your ideal client, now we want to analyze those needs and wants to find out what they really mean. What do they really mean? If you think about it, the needs and wants are the compelling factors. They're the problems, they're the frustrations, they're the concerns that we all have that we want to get fixed. And that's what drives each and every one of us to go and find your type of business to fix it. Because if you think about it, we all just want to feel better. We want to feel better emotionally, we want to feel better mentally, we want to feel better physically, and any product or service that can promise us that is the one that we're going to choose. Would you agree? We all make a decision. We all go through a decision-making process on any product that we buy, any single product that we buy. It's your job as a business owner to decide what that process is, what that process your ideal client goes through, and where you can insert yourself into that process in order to convince them to do business with you and only you. The question is, can you make them feel better? And can you do it different and better than your competition does? So the first thing I want you to consider is, where does the decision-making process of your client start? Is it a short-term process or is it a long-term process? Do they know instantly that they want to do business with you? Do they take a couple weeks? Who do they ask? Who do they talk to? Is it maybe a 6-month decision? What is that like? The next thing, once they've made that decision, they've made a conscious effort to look for a solution. They made a conscious effort to look for a solution, to solve their problem. Where are they looking to get their problem solved? Where are they looking? Are they in their car a lot? Do they notice billboards? Do they listen to AM radio? Do they listen to the radio station? Do they like glossy postcards in the mail? Do they react well to an email that comes through their inbox? Do they like meeting people face to face? I know personally I'm highly influenced by an editorial write-up in a magazine, or when another friend gives me a testimonial. So where are they looking to solve their problem? The next step, if you can catch them in that space, if you can know exactly where they are looking to solve their problem and you capture their attention, what are you going to do in that space to influence them to the next step? To influence them to the next step. And what's the next step? To call or check out your website or go to your location. Now, just because they go and call or go on your website or go on their location, does that mean that they're going to buy? No. There's 6 frogs on a lily pad. One decides to jump. How many frogs are left on a lily pad?
5.
6. And why is that?
That's good.
It's just
They just make a decision, but they didn't take action.
Right. The decision doesn't constitute the action. Right? So there's 6 little frogs still sitting on their lily pond right here. Okay? Let me tell you a story about me.
That's great. That's such a good thing. I fell right for it.
You gotta say it really fast so people don't have time to think.